Hello, everyone, and thank you for checking out the Dancing Eyes Podcast, episode 10. My name is Frankie Caputo, and this is a podcast where I talk to people with nystagmus about life for a while. We talk about some of the ups, the downs, the good things, the bad things, and everything in the middle. Today, my guest is Alex. Alex is a freshman in high school, and he just competed in his first Deca competition. In this episode, we discuss his experience with Deca, how nystagmus can affect making friends, and a lot more. Timestamps for all the different discussions will be located in the description of the video, or if you're listening on Apple, they will be located in the description of the podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, please feel free to hit the like button and hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already, and leave me a comment. I really appreciate it. Lastly, new episodes will be out on the first and third Monday of every month, so make sure to keep your eyes out for those. And with all that being said, I hope everybody listening enjoys and gets something from this episode, and let's get into the show. All right, what's up, Alex? How you doing, man?
I'm doing really good, actually. I'm really excited to be here tonight, and I'm happy to talk about some of my nystagmus experiences.
Well, I'm excited to talk to you. We've had this planned for a little over a month now, actually. And you had a Deca conference, and we kind of decided that we would hold off on recording until you've completed your Deca so that we can discuss it. And that's definitely something that we're going to get into later. But before, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Alex Rajakovic. I'm a freshman. I'm in 9th grade, and I've had nystagmus since I was about 1 or 2. I've been diagnosed with it around that age, and I was born with it, of course, my whole life, but I've learned to change and grow with it kind of over the years.
Can you pronounce your last name for me again real quick?
Yeah, it's Rajakovic. It's a pretty hard last name because I think it's actually Croatian, Serbian, that kind of Middle Eastern area.
Rajakovic.
Perfect, yes.
Yes. Okay, I've seen it spelt whenever I interact with you or your dad, and I just have no idea how to say it. Okay, now I know. Alex Rajakovic. Okay. All right, so I guess we can kind of start, with some stories. Do you know how your parents reacted at all when they first found out about your nystagmus?
Yes, I've heard this story a lot. They like to tell it because they like to say it's almost like when the doctor said it was shock to them, which I only find funny because I'm actually the shocked look on their faces, like they just the mic drop. But it was shock almost more, not because of the condition, but because of its rarity. It was naming an alien phrase to them at that point, because the internet wasn't really started and around yet. So it's very new to them, and they didn't really know what it was till then. So it's kind of what is this? It sounds like just a name you made up just now. So they were shocked at first, and then they started to kind of do some research in the weeks after.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So from what I hear around is the nystagmus is about 1 in 1,000. So that's actually, maybe your parents got a different number. To me, that doesn't seem very rare, but also I've never met anybody with nystagmus before, so it feels a lot more rare than the statistic says.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think they'd ever met anyone, but once they found the board, which I think the board is what kind of started them, or not the board, the Nystagmus Association, that's kind of what started everything for them, because realizing other people had it and they were so spread out, I think was really cool. And then getting involved in it was really nice. And it really helped me a lot, as I'll mention later. It was great for me.
So your parents have been involved with ANN for a while now.
Definitely. It started as kind of just, like most people, kind of just listening. I don't think they went till their first conference. I don't know when it was, but I know it was a couple years after I was born. So it's definitely kind of a learning experience, but now they've gotten more involved. My dad's in multiple committees, and we're planning on going to our second conference next year. Third total if you count the virtual one. But yeah, we're now pretty involved, and we're really enjoying being in the community.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So I'm curious, because I've heard this in the past. I've had some guests tell me that they've seen some interesting doctors who would tell them, man, your kid's not going to be able to do anything. My most recent guest, actually, he told me that the first doctor that his parents brought him to said, "Man, your kid's got nystagmus. He's not going to be able to read. He's not going to be able to go to college," which is like that's a very pessimistic way of looking at it. Have your have your parents ever experienced some sort of doctor reaction like that?
I would say yes. Compared to what the doctor said when we first saw them, I've gone so far beyond their standards. Like they're saying I could never play a sport, like not even on a team, but like for fun. Like tracking balls would be hard. Riding a bike might be extra hard, which I actually love to do now. I ride bikes a ton. It's one of my favorite things to do, but they weren't as bad, saying you might not be able to read, but they're definitely limiting a lot of what I could do.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've actually never had any issues riding a bike either. That's I've never even thought twice about that.
No, it's kind of come second nature to me too. It's just why I was so surprised, kind of their predictions.
Yeah, I know. Do you play any other sports?
So let's see. I think I've played soccer, I've done swim team, I've done basketball in the past. And then this year I haven't played it as a sport yet, but we got a ping pong table, which I thought is like
Ooh,
the impossible for
dude.
nystagmus. But I enjoy playing it. And my big thing is we got orange balls, which are so much easier to track. But yeah, it's kind of like it felt like the impossible to me because my dad was hugely into it. So being able to actually play it is really cool.
Table tennis is my absolute favorite. I love it so much, and the nystagmus has never affected me, dude. I, I always joke about this because I'm pretty good at it, and I feel like I shouldn't be good at it just because I think about my eye condition and just my eyes shaking around and my lack of vision. It's like I'm not supposed to be good at it, but yet I don't know, man. I'm good at
Yeah,
it.
I know what you mean. Yeah, it's impressive. I never thought I'd be actually like able to track the ball when you're going fast paced and hit it back and actually be able to play and not just like lose miserably every game. So it's really cool that it doesn't hold you back as much as some people may say.
I think part I think part of it is also part of the thing that can hinder people from being good at something with nystagmus is they before they try the thing they'll be like, oh, but what about the nystagmus, like is that going to get in the way of me doing it? So for me with the table tennis, I was 10 when I first started playing, and it was pretty much before I ever really knew that I had an eye condition. Like when I was 10, I knew that there was something wrong, but I didn't really know to the extent of it. I didn't know that my vision was as bad as it was, and I definitely didn't know that I had a head tilt or anything. I was just too young for that. And so like my lack of knowledge about my nystagmus, I think really came to my benefit when it came to playing table tennis and other sports.
Yes, exactly. And I'm glad you mentioned the head tilt because I'd say Zoom is kind of like my biggest nightmare because doing virtual school last year and doing like stuff like this even now, the camera's straight ahead, but I look at it slightly to the right or slightly to the left sometimes. So it kind of like it can throw people off. Like it feels like you're looking at something in the background or something in the distance, but I'm really just looking at the camera, but it's just with the head tilt, it looks like I'm looking away.
Has
So yeah, it's
anybody ever
something
said
I've had to
something to
kind
you?
of grow with. I'm trying to think. I don't think anyone said stuff to me. I think actually people have more said like it looks like you're rolling your eyes on camera or even in person if they don't know, like not in a mean way, but kind of like, huh, it looks like your eyes are kind of rolling around.
Mm, yeah, I hear you on the Zoom thing though. I've struggled with Zoom before because I never feel like I'm actually looking at the person that I'm trying to look at, and it's just because I don't know what camera angle you use on Zoom, but I have the one where it's just let's say there's like five people because I had it for school, and there'd be five people on my screen, and I wouldn't know where to look so that it looked like I was looking at the camera. So I'd be like, do I look at the camera so that they feel like I'm looking at them, or do I look at the person? Because if I look at the person, it doesn't look like I'm looking at them. It looks like I'm looking off in the distance.
Exactly. I think it's like a constant battle people don't think about if they don't have nice nystagmus up like in your head. It's like you're doing these calculations, like how can I look straight at them without tilting my head, but also able to see them and be comfortable. It's like it's a lot to think about for like a basic meeting that most people are like, yeah, I just look straight ahead. So yeah, it's an extra step.
Yeah, and I've definitely struggled with that on Zoom, and I've actually done that in real life too. I'm curious if that's ever a thought that goes into your head Like, am I looking at this person straight? How do I look? How do they make me out to look?
Yes, I think the one day that it comes into play most is picture day because in our
Mm.
family, me and my sister both have nystagmus. So trying to do picture day and the guy getting so annoyed, like, look at the camera, not no, at this camera. So yeah, it's fun to kind of like stuff like that. You try your best and still it's like people think you're looking off to like off way far to the right to like Timbuktu, but you're just kind of trying to look straight. So yeah, it's the most interesting experience.
That was definitely something that was frustrating for me when I was younger. Was the camera guy yelling at me to look at the camera? I'm like, bro, I'm looking at the camera. I don't know how it's. And that was also kind of like before I knew that I had nystagmus. So to me, I was always looking at the camera, and then I would look at the photos afterwards, and then I would see my head tilt, and I would be like, oh, I'm actually not really looking at the camera.
Yeah, I had that same experience too. I'm like, I felt like I was looking directly at it, but it looks like I was like had the picture where my head was all tilted.
Yeah, that's how I first found out about my head tilt. Because like I feel like
Oh, really?
if you
That's
have
cool.
the head tilt, which I mean, people with nystagmus, you just have it, but you adapt to it naturally. Your head just kind of does it naturally, so you don't really know how you appear to other people. So it's not until somebody would bring it up to me or until I saw it in photos that I noticed it.
Oh, definitely. Of course, I think it's the same way. I thought head tilt like was nystagmus at first. Like knowing the definition, I don't know, it's always been like blurry to me until like I started getting more involved in the nystagmus board and because like I don't know if it's the eyes moving or having an astigmatism, which I have, or having the head tilt. So I always kind of wondered if it was all one thing or all separate. See, I'm still kind of learning about that today.
Yeah, it seems like with nystagmus, it's not really just one thing. It's not really just the eye movement, but it's also lack of vision. It's also the head tilt. It's also we can't really, or at least for me, like I can't focus my eyes. I can't track things very well with them. I have to move my head in order to keep looking at something. So it definitely just comes with a lot of things that you don't really find out about unless you have it or you know somebody with it. Because if you look up nystagmus, it just says rapid movement of the eyes online, and maybe it'll say
Oh,
something about
really?
a head tilt, but there's not much about all the other head movements and stuff like that.
No, I feel like that's the one thing is the internet still today. I feel like nystagmus is that like that search term where it's like no results or a couple results, and it's like, did I type in the wrong word or did I misspell it? Because there's barely any information, but it's really just like that because it's more common, but it's still so rare that there hasn't been a ton of like research done into it.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I've experienced in the past because especially when I was younger, definitely during my high school days, I would always go onto the internet and I would look for new research on nystagmus, or I would look for YouTube videos of people who have nystagmus, just so that there would be somebody there that I could relate to or talk to. And really, the only source of that was for me, it was either Reddit or it was the American Nystagmus Network because they posted the videos on YouTube.
I
So
like those. Those are two very different sources, but they both probably gave you some good information.
oh, honestly, man, Reddit was the best for me. That's how I started the podcast. Was on Reddit. I kind of had the idea lingering in the back of my head, and I just made a Reddit post, and I had like 5 or 6 people reach out to me within a few hours, and it was pretty much just like that.
Oh, wow, that's really cool. I didn't know how the podcast started. I was going to say, did you just wake up one day? But that's really cool that kind of other people support it because I really liked it. Like being able to see this and seeing you do it was really cool because it makes you feel like there's other people out there who have nystagmus, care about it, or like researching it. So I really like that. It's kind of like the special guest show. I don't know if you have a name for it, but I'm curious what the name would be if you could.
If I had a name for what?
The podcast.
Oh, it's just Dancing Eyes podcast.
Oh, that's I like that. Yeah, I think. Oh, I've heard that. Yes, I like that name because it really kind of. I think that was the slogan a year or two ago for Nystagmus. I think it really kind of sums up everything in a couple words.
Yeah, it's a pretty it's a pretty neat way of looking at it, because I feel like it's so easy to look at the condition pessimistically, and there's a lot of negative people online, and especially in person, man. Like I used to get bullied really hard for this, and it was definitely not easy for me to grow up with. And I think dancing eyes is a more optimistic way of looking at rapid eye movements. So that's one of the main reasons why I did it. And I also had that the logo. I had the idea of the logo in my head, which I thought looked pretty dope. Which is it's just pretty much an eye, but the pupil is the ballerina. So
Oh,
it's
I love,
still an
yeah.
eye.
Yeah, I love the podcast logo. It looks really cool. And like, if Nystagmus could have like a new logo or a logo, I would make it that because I really like it. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, shout out to Fiverr. Fiverr is the best, man.
Yes, but yeah, with Nystagmus, I think it is very it is looked at really badly. Like when you first got, I think at least for my parents and when I was young, it was looked at kind of like a huge problem that was just insolvable and like the biggest, like a big scary term, nystagmus. And when you kind of think about it, like dancing eyes, it makes it a lot less scary and it makes it seem like more livable with. Like your eyes are moving, yes, but you can probably, you can still see and do things. It's not as bad. It's a nuisance, but it's nice.
Well, speaking of that, I usually ask this question, but I don't think I've asked it in recent episodes. But would you consider this to be a disability?
Oh, that is such a hard question. That's the type of question like I need 10 minutes to like write up a formal answer. But in a short answer, I would say it depends on how you define disability. Like I'd define it as something so major you cannot do simple tasks. Like for example, missing an arm, missing a leg. And I think nystagmus, everyone I've met can still eat, drink, walk. So I would say no, it's a disadvantage or a disease, but I want to say disability as far because it hasn't stopped people from doing the most basic things yet.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with you, man. I don't think that, and you're right about um, questioning what the definition of disability is, because it really just depends on how somebody defines disability. But I'm with you. I don't really think that it hinders my experience of living to the point where I would call it a disability either. So yeah, but
Yes,
believe it or not,
exactly.
I've had many different answers for this question. So that's why I ask it, because I get some pretty interesting answers.
Yeah, it's the biggest gray area I feel like you can have with a word like that. It's really hard to define. I'm curious what like the Google definition would be.
I don't know if it's so. I've googled it before, and I'm not sure that it says disability on there. It says it's a condition, a neurological condition, but I don't think that it says anything about it being a disability. So I think that is just up to
Yeah.
whoever's looking at it.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I also think it can depend almost on the severity of the case and if you have stuff paired with it. Like I don't think I've met anyone with nystagmus yet that hasn't had one other small condition or two or three. So I think it really depends what else you may have with nystagmus.
What else do you have with your nystagmus?
I actually have a nystagmatism, which means the shape of my eyes, and I also have a head tilt as I focus the camera, so you don't really see as much, but you may still see my head drifting. So I do have those two kind of smaller things on top of it,
Mm-hmm.
but together it's a little more damaging together, but I've still learned to live with it. And really, all together, there's a lot worse I could have.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I want to talk about your Deca. Let's
Ooh, definitely.
let's hop into that first. First of all, I'm curious what got you into it. Actually, there might be some listeners who don't know what Deca is. So can you explain what Deca is for some people who might not know?
So Deca is a high school organization that works with, I think, schools, yes, all across the country, and it's business focused. So just to be in Deca, you need to take a business oriented class. And Deca is kind of like building future people that want to work in the business sector, finance, hospitality. And normally Deca, there's two main things you can do. You can do a exam like to test your general knowledge on the category of business you picked. And then there's role plays, which are more you put the skill to use. So, for example, this past weekend, I was in the selling category. So, my role play was I needed to pretend to be selling a specific object to a specified customer, and I need to sell it in, I think, 10 minutes or less.
So do they give you a heads up on what you're going to be selling, or do they tell you that the day of?
They like to do it the style of they give you walk in, you have 10 minutes, you look at the product, you have 10 minutes to write everything down. So for example, this year's product, they made it very unique. It was something to kind of throw you off, like say anything you practice, it's going to be super different. So it was a makeup, like a huge makeup mirror with lights around it. So it gave like the dimensions, specific features, price. And then it gave all that, maybe some like add-ons you can get. And then it told you the customer you're selling to and some of their problems. So the customer I was selling to, it was like a dad with a teenage girl graduating high school. So it was like a present to her, like a graduation present. And then I had to sell it to him. His objections were like, it's pretty expensive and I've done a lot of research. So I want to make sure this is the very best one I can get. So I need to pitch it to him.
Okay, interesting. Do you like it?
I really like it actually, because I never knew it'd be something I enjoyed so much, but it's like doing a class presentation to a judge if you could pick anything you wanted to present on. Because, for example, there's other categories like job interview. If you're working at a bank, like maybe if you're the manager of a hotel. So there's so many different things you can practice doing, and it's all made for such a purposeful intent that like it's made so in the future you might do the same thing in real life if you're doing a job interview. So I like this is kind of preparing me for to have a job someday or be a like in an executive position on a company. So I think it's really cool, and it's a great organization, and it's got 3 big rungs for competition. So you start in districts, which is just your county. So I started in my Chesterfield County. I came 3rd place out of the county in all of my in my competition, which was selling.
Nice.
Yeah, I was super excited since this is my first year ever doing it.
Nice, man.
And then I went to states in Virginia Beach this weekend, and I was able to compete there. I got the results back. I did not come in one of the top 3, but on the rating scale of 10, I think I got like an 8.8 out of 10. So I got like between the very good and excellent category. So I was really happy for my first year.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. This is my first time hearing your results. So
yeah, no, it's kind of like breaking news, because I just found them out this afternoon, like an hour or 2 before the podcast.
Really?
I'm just as new to this as you, with these results. It's first person I've pretty much told.
Yeah, breaking news. Okay. So they only tell you what place you got if it's top 3?
They do. I mean, they've done it pretty intense, but I know in my category, there's about 50 kids, and it's all speculation. So I could be saying I got 4th, but I think I hopefully got, in the top 25, because to score above me, you would have to get excellent to perfect. So I feel like I'm in the top general range because I was competing against all kids my age this year. So I feel like I had a pretty good chance at being, top 30 kids, top 20.
Okay.
But I'm excited. Yeah, I'm going to go back next year. There were a couple of challenges with Nystagmus I can mention, but it went really smoothly.
Let's hear about it.
I really enjoyed it. A couple of the challenges, I think the main ones were the paper, of course, that shows the product. They don't want you to take it in with you. So you have 10 minutes to write notes, and it's taped down to the table. So if I'm ripping it up off the table to put it close to my face, I don't think they're going to like that very much. So I think trying to kind of see the paper, and there's hundreds of kids like in this room competing in all these different categories. So I couldn't really, kind of stop and ask because they're on a very strict time schedule. So I kind of had to lean up a bit, kind of like sit up like this and kind of look down at the paper and write. So that's a little bit challenging. And I think the one other thing, I don't know if it's my handwriting or the size, but if I want to like, peek down like this, look at the notes real quick, I might stare a little bit longer because it takes a little longer. I feel like my brain to read letters and words. Like I feel like for the average person, 2020, they can zip through any line. And even for me at a line that's 2060, 2050, I like my brain process is just a little slower. So sometimes I have to kind of find ways to combat that. And there's nothing 100% effective. But I think kind of just practicing ahead of time for this type of thing is the best thing I can do.
Just some more like extra preparation than the average person, I guess.
Yes. And it doesn't have to be a ton. I'm not saying you have to like do 8 hours of practicing before, but just doing 20 minutes or maybe writing extra large on the paper and asking if you can have a second sheet of paper to take notes on. So there's a lot of ways you can accommodate yourself. And that's the thing I wanted to mention after Deca is kind of accommodations in the classroom and outside of it.
Yeah, for sure. We're definitely going to get into that. But I am curious, though, is a nystagmus something that you consider bringing up to the judges beforehand? Or is this just kind of something that you deal with on your own and then just figure it out?
Ooh, I had not thought of that. I would say in school, in meeting people, I always think to kind of bring it up if I'm doing something like a presentation. But this time I actually did not. I think going back, I could have, and I think that could have helped understood if I ever looked at the paper too long or something, or looked at the paper a little long or something like that. So I think in the future, I'll definitely mention it because there's no harm in mentioning it. It's not like they're going to disqualify me and throw me out.
You have nystagmus.
Yeah, I think mentioning it's always the best thing to do.
Okay, so are you done with Deca for the year? You're going to start back again next year?
I think we're going to have a couple in school, kind of like a end of the year social event, but after the competition, it's kind of done for the year because actually I got about 2 months of school left. So it's not like I have half a year of school. I got about 2 months. So next year I'll start up again, which I'm excited to do. And I'll go through all the competitions and any kind of after school activities we do with Deca. Like you might do seasonal stuff like carving pumpkins or stuff, just so you can meet your peers who are also competing along with you to win your school. Because it's also, you don't want to win for yourself, but win for your school because your school is,
it's like a team
like
effort.
It's a team effort. It's like an Olympic team. Yeah, you're kind of competing for your school to get as many wins as possible.
Okay. So overall, pretty positive experience.
Yes, it was very positive for me, and I know everyone liked it because it's like-minded people, and it's a pretty good turnout. This year, our clubs had 60 kids. Most participated in the first level, and then only like 7 or 10 made it to states. But it was still fun going with them and getting to hang out with them.
So do you think in any way your experience in Deca is going to help you determine what you're going to want to do in your future after high school?
That's a great question. I think in the future, the more categories I do and the more I have practice in it, I think it really will.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm already leaning towards kind of a job in the business field, financial field, or even opening my own type of business someday.
Would you say you're an entrepreneur at heart?
Yeah, I'd say entrepreneur at heart. That would be the dream to have my own company someday.
Same here, man. Same here. Are your parents entrepreneurs?
They are not, but actually my dad's brother is. He opened his own bike shop. So he has a bike shop over actually in Norway now, the most successful in his city pretty much.
Oh, wow.
And he started that from nothing. And now, it's really big. It's one of the best there. So I have some entrepreneurship in my blood, definitely.
Good for him. Norway, that's interesting. Is it because the bike market is just so heavy in Norway?
Yeah, the bike market's a little smaller, which means him doing it, he kind of captured the target audience.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a lot of people who are willing to bike there because in the summer it's really pretty with all the mountains and it's in the 60s and 70s. So it's the perfect climate to do it in the warm months. So I think that's what attracts people so much. And he's really the main competition there. He's the big business or the big bike business in
good for him.
Oslo, where he lives. Yeah.
Side note,
Doesn't
is
really
that how you
talk
got
to him.
introduced to the cycling?
Somewhat, I would say it was really cool to hear about someone like him. And it's also, I love biking. I live in a place where there's tons of trails. So just having those trails always kind of encouraged me to bike on them. And with everyone who lives here pretty much has a bike, it feels like.
Okay.
So it's really easy to go out biking with my family or friends. So I've kind of just grown up with it, and I haven't had any nystagmus problems actually. I can see far enough ahead where if there's an object, I can dodge it, and I've never really nystagmus has never really interfered with my ability to bike, which I'm
Awesome.
happy for.
I used to bust my ass on those trails. I'm so over it. I can't do the mountain biking. I've tried it. Or yeah, it's yeah, mountain biking. I've tried it a few times and I just bust my ass every time. Completely doesn't have anything to do with a nystagmus. I'm just not good at mountain biking.
Oh, same. Yeah, those mountain trails are a whole different thing than biking on gravel or pavement. So those I'm a lot worse at it. No, it's not nystagmus. It's just you gotta get used to this, and I think that's one thing that can kind of not scare off people. But if you have nystagmus, it's always 100% worth trying it because you may find out nystagmus barely impacts you at all or has no impact at all. And if you practice enough, you may get really into something.
Mm-hmm.
So I think definitely not letting it hold you back, no matter the sport. Even like I said, table tennis, I really enjoy doing it, and just enough practice has made it really fun and made me pretty decent at it.
So earlier, I asked you if you considered bringing up your nystagmus to the judges at Deca, and you said that you hadn't considered it, but you did say that you bring up the nystagmus to people at school. I'm curious, when you first meet somebody at school, do you feel an obligation to mention the nystagmus, or do you just let it come up naturally in conversation?
I would say I really should. That's a hard. I really lean towards letting it come up naturally because I don't. For me, I don't know why it's just so awkward meeting a new person. The first thing I'm saying is like I have nystagmus or something like that. So I kind of let, if they're curious enough about it, ask me, and if they don't really mind, I can tell them, or I can just kind of let it slide until it comes up.
Mm-hmm.
Because I find it less, at least for me, it's less awkward, but it really depends on the person and what you want to do.
I think in my experience, there's definitely some awkwardness to it if you do it the wrong way. But I also tend to find that people are curious about it, but they don't feel comfortable enough to ask about it. And it might take people some time to build a comfortability in your relationship to ask about the eyes. So for me, what I'll do if I'm meeting somebody is, first of all, if they're not going crazy, because my eyes sometimes they're mild and sometimes they're just going crazy. If they're going crazy and I'm just talking to somebody for the first time, I feel the urge to bring it up because to me, I feel like it's an elephant in the room. For
Yeah, it's
example, my manager at
definitely.
my current job, I was meeting him for the first time, and he's a tall dude, and for whatever reason, when I look up, my eyes start freaking out, and then I had to tell him I was like, dude, I have an eye condition and I was born with it, and he was very grateful that I said something because he thought that I might have been really high because he was a former user. I'm not sure what he used, but he said that his eyes would react to that the same way, and he would get nystagmus because of his the drugs that he used. So yeah, to me, I feel like there's an elephant in the room sometimes, but also sometimes there's no need for me to bring it up. So yeah, I was just curious, like,
Oh,
um,
definitely. Yeah, I feel like for me, it's like drawing like a fine line on paper and then smearing it all over. Like it's so hard to tell when I should definitely tell someone and when I can hold off or I can let them bring it up. So yes, it's a constant thing I kind of think about all the time when I'm meeting new people. It's like an internal battle.
yeah, man, that it's definitely interesting hearing you say that because not so much anymore. It's not something that I deal with so much anymore. But when I was back in high school, so when I was your age, I dealt with that in every single interaction with any person ever. It got so bad to the point where I couldn't even have a conversation and I couldn't even focus on what the other person was saying because I was too busy focusing on my eyes and how I look. Do you struggle with that at all?
Honestly, I'd say meeting new people, that's very real. I didn't know other people. It's really nice to know someone else has had an experience like that. Like, I try to focus so hard on trying to tell if my eyes are moving or if it's freaking them out or not, that I feel like I'm almost not listening. I'm in my own world trying to like
Mm-hmm.
figure out what my eyes are doing. So yeah, it makes it hard sometimes meeting new people. So I definitely, yeah, I'm glad other people know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I mean, just the way that you explained it, just definitely, I related to it a lot. So I figured I would say something. I'm not sure that I got into that so much on the podcast in previous episodes, but it was definitely just something that was always running through my head. Like, geez, my eyes are going crazy, and then you start to realize the more you start to think about it, the crazier they start going. Like the faster they'll start moving, and then it just gets worse and worse.
Oh, I
So
was about to say that. Yeah, I feel like we're like telepathic. I was about to bring that up. Like, the more I focus on it, I feel like the worse it gets. I don't, yeah, it's kind of like, I forget the saying, like if you watch a stove or like a pot, it'll never boil. Like, I feel like I just have to kind of let it be natural, or it's going to go crazy if I'm trying to really channel it. Because the more you channel it, the worse it gets,
hmm.
or at least for me.
No, same for me. Same for me. Just definitely the more attention that's given towards it, just makes it worse. So over time, that's something that I've dealt with, and I've gotten better at. And I think actually for you, the Deca might come in handy when it comes to being present and focusing at the job at hand. So for you, it would be delivering your speech or selling the product. And then you could kind of correlate that to having a conversation with somebody. Like the job at hand is having a conversation with the person, not how your eyes are acting. And yeah, just being
Oh,
present.
definitely. Yes, I'd say that's very true. And I think that's true. I don't know if you remember this, I bet you do, but class presentations, trying to focus on reading it and not the entire class maybe seeing your eyes going crazy, or if anyone's staring at that, kind
Mm-hmm.
of just reading off your presentation or doing whatever you need to do. I think that's so much better than focusing on your eyes, because one, they'll distract you from what you're actually should be doing, which is kind of presenting. And two, I think people will notice less if you notice less. Like, sometimes people only bring it up if you're like so worried about it also.
Yeah.
So if you're kind of just cool and confident with it, people will also be cool with it.
Yeah, I really think for a lot of things in life, but certainly with my experience with nystagmus, it's only as big as you make it out to be.
Yeah, I love that's so true. Yeah. I think it's very perceptive. Like, I went it was, I think, Monday, so that was a day ago from when we're talking, is I went to the doctors to get my driving test, because if you're have nystagmus or you have vision over like that, you think you have to wear contacts for glasses before they recommend going in there. And I think I was 2050, 2060 solidly with contacts, 2050 solid. And then to have a full driver's license, you needed 2040. And I was like one line above. And that was heartbreaking to me, because that means, as of right now, at least, I have restricted to, I think, day. So, like, whatever it is, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., sunrise to sunset.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really hard. It made everything seem so much worse. But now that I think about it, at least I can drive during the day. And in the future, I may be able to drive if I get stronger contacts or surgery or any of that.
You might want to also consider doing some eye exercises. Your vision can be improved with, well, I'm not going to just start saying things, but I've read things that I've read articles and I've read firsthand experiences of people doing eye exercises and having their vision being improved because of them. And this is something that I've been procrastinating on for so long. It's not even funny. I've started doing them in the past before, but I was never able to be consistent with it. And it wasn't until about 2 weeks ago that I've been doing them every day. So if I notice any differences with that, I'll definitely say something on the podcast somewhere. But exercises are definitely, something like it won't hurt, to try something like that.
I don't know. I didn't know this existed until just now. Like, I'm in shock. I don't know I didn't know that was a thing until you just said that. I didn't know you could train your eyes. Like, I've thought about that. but at least from what I've talked to, like my family or doctors, I've never heard that brought up as long as I've had nystagmus, really.
Oh, interesting. Well, here, let me get a pen real quick.
Yeah, that's crazy interesting, because I thought it was kind of just like your eyes kind of improve over time. I've heard like mine have improved over time somewhat, but I did not know that existed. That's great to know. I don't think many people know that either, or no one I've talked to really.
I don't think so. I don't hear it discussed very much in the nystagmus community, and it might not be a huge thing. You know, it might not make a huge difference, but the only way to find out is if you do it. So that's kind of the way I'm looking at it.
Yeah, even if it bumps you up just slightly, it's still bumping you up. It's not taking you down. It's not keeping you the same. It's improving you.
Yeah. So here, I'll give a little example for you and for anybody who's watching what I do, and then anybody can do this if they want, really. So I'm doing this twice a day, and I do this for about 10 minutes in the morning and 10 minutes at night. So I'll take a pen, and then I'll hold it all the way to my right, and then you guys are going to start to see my eyes freaking out. But I'll hold it to the right, and then slowly I'll move it over to the left, and then I'll maintain my focus on it as much as I can, and then I'll bring it back. Bring it all the way back to the right, and then I'll do that 10 times. So I would do this 10 times, and then after I do that 10 times, by the way, this to here, I consider that to be 1 rep. So that's 1 for me. So I'll do that, and then I'll also have the pen at my nose, and then focus on it, and then focus on the tip, and then move it away from me, and then bring it back to me, and just continue focusing on the tip. And then I'll also do this 10 times. And who knows? You know, who
yeah,
knows?
I can definitely tell something's happening because I feel my eyes kind of concentrating on it. And for a second there, they like watered up. It's like it felt like something was working.
Yeah, well, you're working them out, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of like you said, the eye reps. I like that. Yeah, the eye, getting those eyes worked out, going to the gym for eyes. I like that.
Yeah. I mean, if anybody wants to try that, you know, let me know. If you try that, let me know how it goes. But I'm only 2 weeks into it. I don't expect any results at all. I've lowered my expectations to nothing, but I am optimistic about it. So maybe, you know, further down the line, maybe in a few months from now, I could report some results. So about the driving, man. So you need 20/40 to be unrestricted, but you're at 20/50, so you can only do during the daytime.
Yep. In Virginia, I am not sure if it's national or if it's any other state at all, but I know it's Virginia.
Okay.
And I feel like other states are going to have some requirements, but yeah, at least for Virginia, it's very strict. Like it's not 20/40. Like I can get maybe 1 letter on 20/40 if I'm really, really concentrating, but they're like, you got to get clean sweep. You miss 1, you're not getting it. Even if I improved so much, I got 4 out of 5, 5 out of 6, they nope, wouldn't count it at all.
20/40 is pretty good, man.
It's an intense standard. It's very enforced.
20/40 is pretty solid, though. I've spoken to a lot of people with nystagmus at this point. I don't think that I've ever really spoken to somebody with 20/40.
Yeah, that's why I was so surprised it was that low. Like I feel like there may be, at least from research, I've seen some states with a little less restrictions, but especially for people with nystagmus, getting to 20/40, for some people it's impossible. For some, maybe through surgery could be attained. But yeah, I think that's the one thing with nystagmus is improving eyesight, especially for certain things, can feel really challenging and so just kind of end of the world-ish, like it felt to me. Like just a huge disappointment, because at least, you know, when you're about to be able to drive, hearing something like that is disappointing. But I think it's still amazing I can drive during the day. And I think that's the one I got to take out of it, that I can drive.
Yeah, definitely a good takeaway. You know, there's a lot of people with nystagmus who don't drive. For example, I've tried driving a few times and I don't feel very comfortable doing it. I'm still gonna like keep giving it some goes, but yeah, 20/40 is pretty good. I know people personally who have 20/70 with nystagmus and they're not restricted. So
Wow.
Yeah, that's got to be a Virginia thing, man.
Yeah, that's a different state. But yeah, like my dad said actually is like we got computers we can zoom in on now. We just need cars that can drive themselves to solve that
They're
problem.
pretty close to that.
Yeah, they're pretty close, which is nice. In my lifetime, I might be able to,
You
cruise around at
will.
night in some autonomous car.
You will.
I mean, yeah, since Zoom in computers, I know if you had Nystagmus back in like the 70s, 80s would be pretty crazy to think about having computers you could take to school, zoom in on, use. So it's really changed. And even I can use a touch screen now, which
Yeah.
is even crazier to think about that that didn't exist just like a couple of years or decades ago. So I think technology's really changed, made it so much easier. Like the biggest thing with nystagmus that I've always hated is I think going to restaurants and menu boards. Like trying
Oh,
to see
dude.
the menu items is I hate it so much. So the phone, I didn't realize at the conference I was actually helped out. And I was told that I think it was by Jeff Sipperstein, I think, about how you could use your phone to magnify, uh, like I don't know how to explain it. Like it zooms in enough to the menu and it's still clear. Kind of like, or you could
Okay.
take a picture of it and zoom in.
So that's what I do. I do the second thing is I'll take a picture of it and I'll just zoom into it, and that's work. And I did that in school a lot, by the way. That's what I would do in school because sometimes I wouldn't want to sit in the front because I guess I knew people in the back or something. But I would just take a picture of the board and then zoom in, and then I would always have a conversation with the teacher beforehand because some teachers don't want teachers in. I mean, some teachers don't want phones in the classroom, obviously. But yeah, definitely a really good tip, and that's definitely helped with the menus as well as just taking a picture and zooming into it.
Yeah, I'd say high school, like you mentioned, is sitting in the back. Like elementary school doesn't really matter. Middle school maybe a little bit, but high school, the farther back it feels like the more normal it is. So it's like that pool between like the middle of the classroom, like that stagnus by the front, and then like sitting with everyone else towards the back. And it's so hard to decide. Like, am I going to have to take lots of pictures and try to do all the work on my Chromebook, or do I want to sit at the front where I'm comfortable? But it's like with people I might not know, or
Yeah.
if you can choose your seats, everyone's not good. There's going to be fewer people in the front.
So how
So it's
about
a constant battle.
yeah, it is. And you also have so many different classes throughout the day too. So it's
Yeah, I have, I think, 7 classes, even an odd total.
mm,
So yeah, doing 4 a day, it really changes in each class.
yeah. Yeah, it does. Oh man, yeah, memories. High school. Jesus. It's only been a couple years, but all right.
Yeah, I only got 3 left, which is crazy to think about. It felt like I was just first day of school. Yeah, I got
Yeah, you're almost
3.
done.
Yeah, done with the first year almost,
Yeah.
and only should get better, or at least what I've heard.
My favorite year was junior year. So
Ooh.
there you go.
Oh, that's good to know. Yeah, that's actually in the near future. That's crazy to think about. That's actually close. It feels weird to think.
Yeah, you're just a year and a couple months away from that.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy to think about.
The 504 plan. Do you have one of those?
504. Yes, I don't know what it's called in other states, but at least in our state, it's called the 504 plan. I think that's what it's called, like formally, but it can be anything you want. It's like a customizable like card for like it's all digital, but like like a thing like here, this is what I need, kind of
Mm-hmm.
like and what it is it goes out to all the teachers, which is nice digitally. But currently, I put seating close to the front of the class, like always, or if I request, I can get closer to the front. I currently this year I haven't used it much, but touchscreen Chromebooks you can touch it and zoom in if the mouse and keyboard isn't working or move around. And then my others I think is I can request the one I'm actually using is I'm going to do an AP test. So trying to do the tiny circles where it's like 100 questions of circles you have to fill in on a page or something like that. I can have it slightly blown up and I can have slightly longer time to fill it all in, which is really a game changer. Because I feel like I'd spend more time trying to figure out which circle to color in and which row it's on than actually answering the questions.
What accommodation would you say helps you out the most?
It's a good question, actually. I think the most is at the beginning of the year, they know I want to be seeing the first, 1 to 3 rows is perfect. Normally it's first, second, normally, or maybe even third. But instead of having to go to every teacher in the front of the class and like, can I switch seats with that kid over there? It's so much less awkward. It's so much easier to come in and just know you have a seat that you can actually see the board.
Yeah.
And even if you don't, if a teacher's like, I'm not moving seats, you can kind of use it like, but I need to be moved. So you don't have to fight that. So yes, it helps
That's a good
allow,
one.
it really helps to prevent kind of having to fight the teachers on things if I really need it. And it makes it so much easier, like to get this AP test, get slightly bigger, like questions or bubbles. It saves a lot of time that I just had to plan. That's kind of like an automatic, you can card.
Nice. It's like the sit in the front card if you were playing.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
It is. It's like the get out of jail free card, but for school.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, interesting. Okay. So earlier we spoke about the Nystagmus conference briefly, and you had told me that you spoke there a few times. So I'm curious about your experience speaking there and your other experiences just at the conference in general.
I would say I've spoken, let's see, I'm trying to go back. I spoke at the virtual conference last summer, and I spoke, I think, 2 years before that, my first ever conference. So I was young, so it wasn't like a professional speech like the State of the Union address, but it was me speaking about, it was like a 3 or 4 minute speech, which felt huge to me because I think I had to memorize it all or just have like a couple small note cards. And it was all about living with nystagmus. And the one I did in front of everyone at the conference, so like 300 people. So it was kind of like the basics of living with nystagmus, school with it, doing things with it. And then the thing that's a lot more relaxing because it's a little smaller audience is the teen panel, which you do in front of rooms of any teens and parents that want to come. And you do it with 3 other people, normally maybe 4 other teenagers, like ages, 13 to like 18 or 13 to 20, that all have nystagmus. And we go down the row with questions submitted. And I really, really enjoy that because questions are like, what is working with nystagmus? What is school like? Or even more specific, like, did you have specific glasses to wear during sports practice? Or, stuff like that. Or were you still able to like do well and succeed in school with nystagmus?
Mm-hmm.
And everyone kind of gets to give their own unique answer, which is cool to hear from the others, even when you're on the panel. And then most recently this year, I led a room actually, I think with a co-host, and I got to lead the teen session, which is kind of like just like an icebreaker session the first night, and the lunches during virtual, which was everyone could eat lunch and just kind of free talk about nystagmus, or even if there's other topics related to nystagmus, or kind of just free talk since it was lunch.
Cool. So
it's cool having a leadership position.
Yeah, I'm curious about that. How does that work? How did you get a leadership position for that?
In nystagmus, I think it was either we reached out or they reached out to us, knowing that I did pretty well and I was decently outspoken. So they're like, would you like to participate in this? And I asked to. So the first time I asked to kind of do some of them, and I guess they liked me enough the first time they asked me back to do a little more.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of how you rank up in anything, is kind of starting and then slowly you can do a little and a little more each time.
Gotcha. Okay. So you did say that you spoke for your first or was it the first one? I can't remember, but you ended up speaking in front of a group of a lot of people, like 300 people. Did that give you, would you say that helped you for your Deca in a way?
Oh, definitely, yes. If Deca, my first time ever speaking with like someone like that,
that's a lot of people, man.
So freaked out. So yeah, that 300 people, that was so freaky. Like I was younger, so it was okay, but I forgot like a page or something, or like half a page of stuff I was supposed to say. Mm-hmm. Because I was just so like in the zone doing it. But I think the more I do stuff, the better I would be. Like doing this podcast will really help. Like when I do a presentation, I can be like, well, I've done a 40-minute podcast. This is so easy. Or I've done Deca. This is no sweat at all. So I think the more you do, the more calm you can be,
Mm-hmm.
and the bigger stuff seems a lot smaller.
That's a good way of looking at it. Yeah, that's just one of the many benefits that I think you can get from doing public speaking. Is, I mean, I've noticed that you're just pretty good at articulating yourself in general. Like you don't stutter, you don't say a lot of ums. So I'm sure that just a combination of the Nystagmus conference and the Deca and just all of these things have helped you articulate yourself pretty well. Definitely, like you're 16. There's no way I'm articulating myself the way that you are when I'm 16. No way.
Yeah, two things on that. One, at the beginning, I think you noticed I still slightly like my voice was like, I don't know, either high pitched or cracked or something. Like at first I was like, I got to get into it. Like I think with everything, you could be like the president and you'll still get nervous. Like you still have that kind of like butterflies or excitement or adrenaline, whatever it is. But once you kind of get into your zone, it's a lot easier to talk. And then the one thing, not to correct you, but just in case anyone's curious, I'm 15, I think, and a half now.
Oh my God.
I'm slightly under. I'm
So
not to
low.
like contradict you, just in case.
No, thank you.
So
for
the
bringing it
record's
up.
accurate.
Thank you for bringing it up. Yeah, I just think I assumed because when was I okay, I guess I was 15 when I was a freshman too. Yeah, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I got in early. With my birthday, I don't know how the cutoff works, but yeah.
Okay.
But I'll be 16. Yeah, I'll still be 15 my sophomore year. I don't turn 16 till November. So I'm a little young, but I've met
I just
younger.
turned 15. Oh my God. Okay, very, very well-spoken 15-year-old. You're also the youngest guest that I've had.
Oh wow, that's it's a cool honor to have.
Yeah. You could officially say that you're the youngest one, so that's something, I guess.
That is.
To kind of close off the podcast, I just want to talk about your parents real quick, and I'm curious what role they played in your ability to deal with your condition and to live a normal life.
I would say my parents supportive would describe it somewhat, but very supportive and very positive. Like if they listened to the doctors, they would probably be very, very cautious about everything I could do. And they'd be a lot more like helicopter like I'm can actually go out and, hang out with people and not have them watching me or tracking me that I know of. I think they don't. I don't think they're hiding in the bushes watching me.
They got the binoculars, man.
Yeah, with the binoculars.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been able to attempt so much stuff that it's really nice. Yeah, they've been super supportive and like doing anything we think about it, like a little bit like with Nystagmus, would there be anything extra you have to do to kind of succeed, like extra preparation? Maybe for this sport, you might want to consider trying guiding me on what I can and can't do.
Mm-hmm.
Or there's not many can'ts, kind of what I can do and what I should look at, how much like preparation I may need for it, or how much of a struggle it might be with my Nystagmus.
Gotcha. Okay. And neither of your parents have nystagmus, do they?
No, my mom wears contacts and my dad wears glasses. I think it's on basic like a basic like a nearsighted or farsightedness, but I think my dad I got the nystagmatism from. So I know they have different things, but definitely not nystagmus. That's why it was such a shock for them to hear I had it. Because
So you were just explaining to me the reaction, why your parents were so surprised when you were first diagnosed with nystagmus.
oh, I should say, yeah, they were so surprised because they've never had it. No one in our family's ever had it. Me and my sister were the first people to have nystagmus and be diagnosed with it. Which is crazy because, yeah, we're the only two kids in the family. So it's weird for both of us to get it when no one else has had it.
I know, that is interesting. That is interesting. I hear that the mother would pass it down more than the father. But your
Yeah, it's
mom doesn't have
interesting.
it, so interesting.
Yeah, it's like their eye conditions combined to form nystagmus in us. I don't know.
That's funny. Well, Alex, I don't really have so many other things to talk about here. Do you have anything else that you'd want to discuss before we finish off?
I actually have a question for you, if that's okay.
Yeah, yeah, let's do it.
I was curious. I know you have nystagmus. Have you ever had surgery for it, and are you ever considering getting surgery?
I did have surgery. I had surgery when I was 13, and oh man, I had the name of my surgery right here. I think this is it. Oh, I can't believe I actually remembered to keep this paper on me. I didn't think I was gonna
Oh,
need it.
that's awesome that you kept it right there.
Yeah, I was
It's like you know I was
expecting.
gonna ask.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? I did. I knew you were gonna ask me. That's what it was. Kestenbaum procedure. Kestenbaum, Kestenbaum, something like that. Okay.
Yeah,
So I had this procedure when I was 13, and my most recent guest, John Paul, actually had this as well. So what the procedure is, I'm not going to go. I'm not going to get too logistical. I don't really know anything about it, but I do know that its purpose is to help correct your null point. So my null point was a lot more dramatic than it is today when I was younger. It was pretty dramatic, and the procedure did help correct the null point. And I still have a slight null point, but it's not nearly as bad as it used to be. But I do want to say one thing that I do have to mention is I literally I got double vision from this procedure. So I do just have to say that I after my eyes were done healing, I was able to open them up again, and I noticed that I was seeing two of everything.
that's
And
interesting. Do you still have
yeah,
that?
I feel like I might have a little bit of it, but I also feel maybe that I've just become so accustomed to it that I don't really notice it. That might also be a possibility.
Huh, that's very interesting. And did the null point correction help your vision, or was it just to kind of stop the head tilt?
So I was pretty young when I got it. I was 13, so I don't recall if it did much to improve my vision. It might have helped a little bit. It definitely didn't worsen it. My vision definitely didn't get worse after the procedure, but it did help correct the null point. But it did come at a cost for me. I did get the double vision, and I did have to start wearing prisms in my glasses for a little bit, which eventually I stopped wearing. I would say that my double vision isn't nearly as bad as it was, though. I don't really think that I experience double vision anymore, and if I
Oh,
do, it's very minimal.
that's good. Yeah, I know. I feel like a lot of people I've talked to in nystagmus, including me, are like either have had surgery or are considering getting it someday. So I feel like it's kind of a hot topic for nystagmus, especially for me right now, considering do I ever need to have a milder case? So it's kind of something I'm interested in. I feel like a lot of people in nystagmus seem to either want to talk about or already have gone through and would be happy to share.
Yeah, I've had a few people on my show who have had procedures and surgeries, and I guess I should mention that I got LASIK. I don't know if that's considered a surgery, but that can be surprising to some people be, because of the nystagmus, because my eyes are moving all the time. But I did get LASIK. It wasn't a fun procedure, but we ended up making it work. So like now I'm not wearing glasses or contacts, but
Well, that's great.
yes, it's great, but also I feel like anything that I do, there's always like some sort of side effect or some sort of thing that comes with it. So for the first surgery, I had the double vision, and for my LASIK, which I got almost a year ago, we're coming up on a year.
Oh, wow.
Um, my vision eventually got up to where they were to what it was with the glasses, and then I feel like it's diminished slightly since then. So what happened was I got the procedure and my eyes were still a little blurry a couple days to a couple weeks after the surgery. So it probably was like here, and then my vision got back here to where it usually was, and then I feel like it's kind of back down here. So
Oh,
I'm under the impression that my vision is not as good right now as it was when I had glasses. So I'm considering going and getting a pair of glasses or contacts so I can start trying to drive again because I don't feel comfortable driving with my eyes the way that they are now. So,
Well, that's really interesting and good to know.
just things to keep in mind. Those are just my
Yeah,
experiences. There's other people who have had these procedures and did not experience the same thing that I did. But I feel like I do have to mention, uh, you know, my side effects, I guess.
definitely. Yeah, the full disclosure is good. Don't want to. Yeah, like yeah, I don't want people, some people, everyone's very honest. Like, I'm glad there's no people who are super positive about it or super, super negative. Everyone seems pretty neutral with it.
Yeah, you just kind of have to look at anything from all perspectives and weigh the outcomes. And if it's something that if it's a risk you're willing to take, then you're willing to do it. So just to clarify, you haven't had any procedures, but you're considering some.
I am, yes. And the only reason I'd say is I think driving is actually a huge factor of if my whole life, if I could have a procedure and just bumped up one line, that could change a huge part of my life, which is driving at night. I know I'll do some point someday. So I feel like if I could get that part back through a procedure, I'm willing to take the risk.
Okay.
But there are some side effects, and there is the problem that I could go through all that work and I come out the same. And that also kind of stink for how much you go through and with the cost. So yes.
Is there a specific procedure that you're considering?
No, I'm so new. We haven't, we'd have to we're thinking like reach out to specialty or specialty like care facility or like a bigger hospital, because there's nowhere in like that we've been to that have like specific procedures we've talked about yet.
You probably want to reach out to Dr. Hurdle.
Yeah. That's who we're thinking of talking to. Yeah. Because they seem very well respected and very, very good at what they do.
Yeah, he's the one who performed that procedure on my most recent guest. So maybe consider reaching out to him. I think he'd be able to help you out there.
I definitely will.
Yeah. Well, I think we're about done here. I really appreciate you joining me and talking to me, and thank you for your time, man.
Of course. Well, thank you so much for inviting me on the podcast. I'm really glad that I could have done it.
Of course, I'm happy that you came. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks.
And for anybody who's listening on YouTube, please feel free to give the video a like and a comment and hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. And all the episodes are now available on Apple Podcasts, so you can always if you'd rather listen to it, you can check it out on there too. And yeah, thank you for listening.